Okay, well, look, I think we'll get started. Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone from Australia and New Zealand, for giving us your time. And today we're really focusing on email campaigns and how you get the most from them. So it'll be a mixture of some slides, but also then going into actually Boma itself and taking you through a little bit of a workshop as well. So my name is Charles Clark, and I'm really thrilled to have Andy along today. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how you going?
And I thought Andy, given that he A, knows a lot about marketing, but also designed a lot of the email side of Boma, would be the perfect person for us to dive in and ask some of those email questions. But before we get into the workshop portion of today's session, I will just sort of spend a minute or two talking about the context of email, because that was one of the questions that we got. Why should I be using email? Is it still the channel of choice? And from our perspective, it very much still is, even though there's a multitude of social media apps out there, and obviously a lot of instant messaging apps, it is still really a key channel. So, 50 years on from its launch in the 70s, it really is still the preferred business communication tool for people. Add on to this, some recent research by HubSpot last year found that 99% of people open their emails and check their emails every day. And then you may have also heard the ROI of email being, for every $1 you spend, you get 42 in return. So some really strong reasons why it's useful in terms of as a channel. And if we now drill down a little bit into why it's good for accountants in particular, I'm going to be focusing on really your two groups of people that you'd want to be talking to. So the first of these would be your current clients. And really, it's great for trust building with them. You're able to share the latest tax news or accounting tips, and these are going to help reinforce the firm's value for your clients. You can also obviously send tax reminders and special announcements to really show your clients that they can count on you to keep them informed, solidifying yourself as a trusted business advisor. And all of this is going to cultivate loyalty and allow you to remind your clients of both your existing services and also provide a launch pad for services you'd like to introduce to them. Now, for prospective clients who may not be ready for a new accountant immediately, if you're able to get your newsletter or emails in front of them, you're going to be able to start to position yourself as an expert in this field, so that when they are ready to go and change or look for a new accountant, your firm is going to come top of mind. So it's about developing that relationship, and then you sort of can continue to develop it and showcase your expertise by sharing with them really valuable content that's going to be relevant to them, their business, their situation. Now, it is just worthwhile saying that for both groups, relevance is key. So the old idea of maybe spray and pray, so you just get some content and you click send and send it to everyone on your database, those days are very much done, they're gone. And in fact, one of the key reasons that people do tend to unsubscribe from newsletters is that they're getting information which is either irrelevant to them or it's being sent too frequently. We'll deal with those questions in another minute or two. So personalization, therefore, and segmentation really are key. And I think it's just useful to talk about what these two are, because they're similar, they're two sides of the same coin, but there is a little bit of a difference. So personalization is using subscriber data that you know about them within an email to make the content feel tailor-made for them. So as an accountant, things you can do, you can address the clients by name in the email, and you can tailor the content of the emails to make sure that they hit their specific interests and their challenges, and obviously how you make a bit of an impact with them. So by paying attention to these details, it's going to demonstrate your commitment, providing relevant and valuable information to your clients and to your prospects. And then there's segmentation. And the idea behind segmentation is that you can take your list as a whole and then start to segment it into, I suppose, groups or buckets based on different factors. And these might be things like their industry, their company size, or their specific accounting needs. Once you've segmented them, you can start to send targeted emails to different segments of your audience. And by making them targeted, you're able to increase the relevance of your content, and this should therefore improve your engagement rates. And so engagement rates are things like the open rate. So if you send it to 100 people and 50% of your recipients open it, that's a 50% engagement rate. And then also importantly, the actions taken off the email. So at a basic level, it might be clicks. So how many clicks does it drive to take an action that you've asked them to do? And so that might be to click and download something, or click to go through to a specific page, or it might be to give you a call or get in contact by sending you an email. So some examples of segmentation is that you could create separate email campaigns. And the first could be for small businesses looking for tax preparation services. And then another one could be for larger organizations who are looking for auditing assistance. So just a little bit of an example there. And I think just worth highlighting the quote there from HubSpot's marketing report last year, that segmented emails drive, 30% more opens and 50% more click-throughs than unsegmented ones. So again, this was a really common question, like how do I increase that relevancy? So segmentation is a key factor here. Now, what does it mean in practice to segment? And so what I've actually got here is a screenshot of a Boma campaign. And you'll see in this example that we've chosen to filter using a tag. So it's not going to everyone, we're choosing an audience based on a tag. And I've chosen to pick my residential property investor. Now you can see just where my mouse is, we've got a tag section, and those are tags associated with each contact. So these are basically identifying segments, tags that I've created, and then assigned to my different contacts. Now the point being here is that, again, you're able to say, right, this information is relevant to my residential property investors. I don't want to send it to anyone else. You tag them, you select them in an email, and then you send them the right information that's going to be specifically relevant for them. And again, the point here is that you're demonstrating that you understand their business, that you know what's relevant to them, and equally that you're only going to send them information which is relevant to them. So you're not going to bombard them with information which is would be relevant to another sector or another type of business. So one of the questions we did get was email best practice. And while Andy will be taking you through sort of some, I suppose, practical tips and sort of design tips, what we've got here is a bit of a checklist, things that you can do, especially before you send out an email, to make sure it has the best chance of being effective. So obviously we will be sending out the recording, but you're very welcome to screenshot any of these slides as we go. So as we said before, segmentation of a database is really important. It means that you can be targeted in your emails and then obviously make the content relevant. Using an impactful subject line. So they are really, the key factor in getting someone to open up your email. People will read that subject line. If it's not impactful, if it doesn't interest them or it's not relevant, they won't. And then all that effort you've gone to make the email content, concise and easily readable, and the design, of the email really nice, is wasted if they don't open it. So content, whether it's a long email or a short email, that's absolutely fine. But whatever the length of it, just make sure that it's easily readable. Sort of plain English is best, and it's also concise in terms of what you're saying. So use 2 words if you need to, rather than sort of 10. Now, personality is also important. You're not a robot. Your clients will understand. They probably know you, been on the phone, met you. So it's important to let that shine through. And this is also important when it comes to prospects. There's no point sort of being an automaton, sort of super dry and kind of nothing. Maybe if you're quite sort of an extroverted personality, that's absolutely fine. You may as well let it shine through in your emails, because the clients who you're working with expect that of you. And if you've got prospects, it's better that you can be sort of honest and let that let them understand what it would be like to engage with you. Now, a key thing is checking your links and buttons. So look, I've made this mistake. I think anyone who's sent out an email has at some point. You rush it through and you don't send yourself a proof, and you basically send out the email and not all the buttons link through, or maybe one is missing. So again, if you've gone to all the trouble of getting the email looking good and you've got the call to action button, do just go back and recheck, is it doing what you want it to do, and are the links going through to the right pages? Another factor is to send it from you if you can. By you, I mean, from Charles Clark at charlesclark@bomamarketing.com. So, it would be specific to you and your firm. But we find that these sort of personalized froms are more effective than just saying like the team at or admin at hugeaccounting.com. Again, look, it's personal preference. If you prefer to send it from a generic email, that's absolutely fine. But again, just a tip. And lastly, as I have sort of alluded to, proof it once, proof it twice. You could send yourself a test email. You may actually like to send a colleague of yours a test email. Nothing is as good as having a fresh pair of eyes on something that you may have missed. And again, once you've sent out the email, you can't recall it. So it is worth spending that extra maybe 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure that you're absolutely happy with how it looks. Now, look, I'm going to hand over to Andy at this point. I see a couple of questions have coming in. That's great. We will do our best to answer them all at the end. So keep them coming. And Andy, I'll hand over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Charles. Perfect. So now you should be seeing the content library on my screen. Looks like that's working. So essentially what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to start with a content library campaign. It's going to be a newsletter style, so a bunch of articles in there. I'm going to choose this one, how to use forecasts and scenario planning. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to have a look at it and go, yep, this is what I want to send. Great. Deliver in campaign, and obviously we're showing email today, so I'll choose email there. And essentially, as we've already reiterated a number of times, you want to make sure you segment it. So I'm going to now. I could select some contacts manually, like say you've met with some clients and you're like, oh, I just met with Andrew and John. I'll send an email out to them manually. That's what the manual is for. As soon as you get to more than 20, then you need to use either tags or all contacts. So let's say that I'm going to target this. I could send it to like people with 50 to 250,000 income, over 250,000 income. But as we discussed, like let's keep it targeted. So I'm actually going to specifically niche it down to clients who have that 50,000 to 250,000 income. So I'm going to specifically build it with them in mind. So I'm going to save and close that. I can see it's selected for. Now I'm going to choose a template. One of the questions that we did get was around templates. Obviously, the default easiest templates in Boma are the content or other default branded templates. I'll talk about these in a minute. You can also create your own campaign templates. You can build them completely from scratch. And then we've got a lot of design templates that you can grab from in here. I mean, there aren't quite as many as in here because it's the staging, but in production, there's a few more templates in there. And a lot of these actually do get used quite heavily by people that want something a bit different, like for an event or something like that. But the branded templates are a great place to start because they do pull in your branding and you can have the choosing of the format. We do get a lot of people that ask questions about these. If you're sending a non-newsletter, so like the full content, then obviously that's when you'd pick the full article so that the entire article goes in the email. As I already mentioned, I'm going to build a newsletter style. So I'm going to choose one of these ones. The Hero is really popular. This is a really easy, like if you're a beginner at email, this is a really easy one to format. It works really well on mobile as well as desktop. Looks the same on both. It's very simple. I'll show you some of the gotchas because this is one of the things that people don't realize. So I'll show you some of the gotchas with these. So let's say that I'm going to go with like the left and right because I know a lot of people like to kind of balance it off and do that left and right. And I'll show you a little cheeky trick here because actually this can look quite nice on desktop and then it can get a little bit off on mobile if you don't do a tweak. So that's pulled that in, got the image on the left, got this on the right. Now let's say that I'm also going to add some more content to the email. So I could do that by clicking here and going add content. I can also just click the add content button up the top, which is the fastest way to do it. Let's say that I'm going to do a website URL. Now I could paste in here a URL from my website. I could paste in a web, like a URL from like the IRD or the ATO or even a news site. So you're not limited here to just what's on the content library. You can share articles from your website. You can share external articles as well. So in this case, I'm going to choose an article from the Boma website. It's going to pull that in. It's going to bring in an image. It's going to bring a title. And I'm going to accept that. And then it's going to do all the formatting down that right-hand side there. Now, so I'm going to go, okay, great. I'm going to chop and change these. So I'm going to have this one on the right, sorry, this one on the left and this one on the right. So the image on the left, image on the right, which looks really nice in desktop. But this is where you've got to be aware that there's a little trick to get it looking good on mobile. So if I go preview and if I jump into mobile, then what happens is you get that image nicely at the top, but this image goes down the bottom. And if I had another piece, it would have an image back to back and it looks quite strange. But that's actually quite easy to fix. So I can click on this one, I can scroll down and I can essentially, choose that on mobile, we're going to reverse the stack order, which basically means that this will come up on top. So then when I preview that, it will now load it. And now when I go to mobile, you'll get the image nicely on top and it looks good and it works well. As I already mentioned, if you are a beginner, if you are like, oh, that seems way overly complicated, then you can simply drag in the hero image, which looks like this. I won't keep this, but you can do your articles like this, and then they'll look the same on desktop as they do on mobile. Right, so I'm going to remove that one. Let's say that I also want to do a link because we've had a few people asking recently about links. I'll show you another way to do a link in the next email, but let's say that I just wanted to, drag in a button that was going to be promoting something. I'm going to drag that in and I can, I can choose to link that somewhere. So I can put a URL, could be to download a file, could be, a PDF or like a form that for your clients to fill in at the end of the year. That's very easy. Equally, if I wanted to do, I will actually do this now. If I wanted to bring in, let's say I wanted to build something slightly different on this email, what you may not realize is that you have all these custom options. So you can generate like some very different emails by going, oh, actually, like let's have 4 boxes here. And maybe this is going to show your new office off and you're going to drag in some photos here from your new office. And so you'll bring images in there and then you can browse, you can choose images that you've already got, you can upload files. Obviously, if it was from your office, you'd be uploading them, but equally you can search free photos and bring them in. So if we were looking for stock photos of someone in a cafe to do an article about a cafe, then you could insert something like that. And then obviously that'll inject. What there also is inside of the rows is these placeholder rows, which have quite handy things like the dear first name. So this is great for you to be able to write an introductory paragraph and also personalize it so that they go, oh, great, it's sent to me. It's not just some random thing that's sent to everyone. And you can also, from those rows, you can also choose, like we've got a lot of different formats here. So say you wanted to introduce some of the team, and so you wanted to have like some details on each of the members of the team. So we could have, maybe you've got a team member called John Connor. So we could have John Connor here. Obviously, as we did with that other image, you'd replace this image. You'd write a little blurb about John. When did he join your team? What does he do? Is he bookkeeper? Is he office manager? What's John's role? And then obviously this would be a link either to, it could be to email him. So you can, in here, you can send an email. So you can choose to send an email to John, or it could be open a web page, to find out more about John, click here. And obviously you change the text on this button as well. Find out more, or maybe learn about John. Although that's kind of a bit long. So more about John. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to save and close that email, and I will show you one other before I hand back to Charles for the next section. So for this email, I'm going to start a new campaign from scratch. And I'm going to get well ahead of the game here, although it is July. We are in the second half of the year. It's almost August. I don't want to freak anyone out. But so let's say that I'm going to start preparing our Christmas email. So I'll start creating a Christmas email. And for this one, I'm going to choose who to send it to. I'm going to filter using tags. So I'm not going to send it to everyone. I'm just going to send it to clients. Normally you'd have a client tag in here. In this account, I don't have a client email, but I'm only going to grab the people that I have their income for because I know that my clients have that. But equally, you would have a client tag or whatever you use for your clients, because some businesses will use other things like SMFs or trusts, and they'll manage it that way. But whatever your way of managing it is, make sure you segment it. Make sure you choose who you want to deliver it to. I'm going to start with just a branded empty template. And once I get in here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to drag in an empty row, show you guys how that works. So drag in an empty row, and then I can drag in a paragraph there to use. I click on this paragraph, I can now go right with AI. So our AI uses ChatGPT. You can put prompts and get ChatGPT to write for you. What I've got here is a prompt to get them to write the end of year email for me. We do have a lot of these resources on our website, so we can send this out afterwards with the replay of like, hey, here's the different AI prompts that we have that we can use. This is a perfect example to use as a prompt. You don't want to ask any AI, not just the Boma AI, but any AI to write you technical content. Like right now, artificial intelligence, unfortunately, is very good at getting creative. It's a bit like your children when they come home and tell you a creative story about, why they didn't do something or why they don't have something. AI can be the same. So you can ask it a question on a technical content, like tax or, changes to taxation laws. And it will quite happily give you an answer. It might even quite happily write you a massive long article, but that article is not necessarily going to be correct. So we recommend at the moment that you use AI for more of that generic content. You can use it for something other than, say, just a Christmas message. We've found it quite ideal for writing like tips on managing staff or, more of those soft skills. And obviously, as always with AI, read what it writes and see if you're happy with it and apply any edits. So the prompt we're using here is pretend you're an accountant, write an email wishing your clients a happy Christmas and New Year's break, thank them for their business and loyalty over the past year, and say you're looking forward to working with them in the future and helping them achieve their financial goals. Mention that the firm is closed from the 24th of December to 15th of January, but if they have any queries, get in touch. Make this email at least 400 words long and use British English so it looks correct in Australia and New Zealand. If I click generate, ChatGPT is going to think about that for a moment, and then it's going to write me a nice email. And obviously, I'd read through this and go, am I happy with it? Looking ahead to the new year, I'm excited about the prospect of continuing our partnership and assisting you in achieving your financial goals. Great. This looks good. It's got the holiday dates. It's got the thank you. I'm going to click apply. That's going to come across here. And obviously, as we've already talked about, I'm going to reiterate it one more time. You want to make sure that you do personalize it. So we're going to bring in the merge tags, go hi first name. And obviously, we're also going to sign it off as myself as well. There we go. And what you can also do, I'll just show you one other way. So if you want to send a link inside of text, you can simply highlight text. So if I want this to go somewhere, then I can highlight it. I can click this and I can put the URL in here, and then that will become a link. So in this case, I don't actually need it to go anywhere, but we'll just use Google as an example, and then that will become underlined in blue. Equally, if you want to be able to have it go to an email address, like rather than hitting reply, go to someone different, you can change it to email, and then you can choose an email address. So if we want that to go to the support address, then we'll put that in support@bomarketing.com, click OK, and then that'll apply that, become a link as well. Perfect. Right. I'm going to hand back over to Charles and we'll get into the next section.
Thanks, Andy. Let me just share screen. Just one comment on the Content Assist AI. So the prompt that we asked it to use was obviously one that we have used before. Sometimes you may find that it may not give you exactly what you want. So there's two options. You can either ask it to try again, so you hit regenerate. The second option is that you slightly tweak your AI prompt. So you might tweak a little bit of the language, ask it to do something slightly differently, and and if that see if that one works, and if it does, you can obviously insert it, and then as Andy said, you can customize it further. You don't have to just keep what it said. You can sort of tweak it further as well. So look, on to questions, and this is just quite a small amount of the questions that we've had, and we have actually also collated some of the questions. There were definitely some common themes. So what we've got here is that we're going to be dealing with some of the common themes first in the first 4 or 5 questions, and then we'll go through to the more specific ones. And equally, I can see lots more coming through online on the Q&A as well. So yeah, we'll get into these now. Okay, so timing and frequency. And look, this is a really key one, and they do actually, it is quite a crucial role in determining how successful your email campaigns are. So, sending out the email at the right moment, at the right date, can actually improve your open rates and overall engagement. And I had my response, but I was interested to see what people were saying out there in the market. And I found a couple of different responses. So CoSchedule, they recommended, sort of specific times. So 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 8 p.m. Whereas HubSpot, they were sort of saying, look, sometime in the morning between 9 and noon is best. Now, what I would say is that a lot of times these are B2C, so they're out there. Maybe there'll be a lot of retail in there. And actually, from what we've seen in Boma, the answer is somewhere along the lines of yes, morning is good, but it's also best to consider your audience's needs and their schedules. So if you have clients and say they're retailers and you know that first thing in the morning they're busy sort of getting their shop set up and ready to open, and actually it's sort of late afternoon when it quietens down, you might consider, if you're segmenting an email to send to them, that the afternoon is the better time. Equally, you might have other audiences and you know that first thing in the morning before they get snowed under at sort of 8 a.m. is a good time. So be aware of your audience. If you do the segmentation, you'll understand which segments, when they like to receive emails, and also a good idea to do some testing. So you can always try out different days or different times and see where they're getting the best engagement. Now, in terms of frequency, I mean, the key here is really to avoid bombarding your emails with excessive emails. And I've definitely seen firms who were sort of sending out 9, 10 emails a month, and none of them were segmented. So this meant that everyone in their audience got 9 to 10 emails a month. Now, what this leads to is that a lot of those aren't going to be relevant, or they will, that feeling of just like, God, you just don't leave me alone. You're just always emailing me. I'm going to unsubscribe, or I'm going to label you as a spam. And obviously, that's not great, because when you do then send them the important email about a reminder or an update or a request for information, and they've either unsubscribed or been labeled as spam, or they just ignore your emails, that's really not good. So the way you can get around this, again, is relevancy and segmentation. So in terms of if you're doing a newsletter, once a month to everyone is good. That's a great cadence. In terms of more frequent than that, that's fine, but they have to be segmented and the content has to be relevant. So, for example, if you've got some clients and because of the information that you have to send them, you send them 4 emails in a month, that's fine, as long as the content is hyper relevant to them and their requirements. That's fine. You can even go more. Again, it has to be relevant. And again, because if you're doing it right and you're segmenting it, you're not bombarding other people for whom the content won't be relevant. So again, frequency, it can be more than 1 a month, but just make sure it's segmented and make sure it's relevant. And what can you talk about? So content was a really popular one. And I know that for many accountants, thinking, what they can be talking about in their emails, or even, for blogs or social media, can be a bit of a, can be quite dispiriting, because you're always sort of needing to find something to talk about. And look, the good thing here is that, if you're a Boma subscriber, and I know a lot of you are, you've got the content library. So that's got a whole lot of country-specific content. So Australia and New Zealand-specific content covers everything from compliance, advisory, tax, technology, management, sales, everything that you might want to sort of send out to your clients. If you're creating content, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's social or for your blog or for email, the key to think about is what's going to be useful for your clients, what's going to serve their needs, and equally, secondary to that is how is it going to benefit, and I suppose meet the goals of your firm. So content is great if you have it on your website and social in terms of SEO. So you could think about it from SEO perspective. And obviously, people can find it online. They can come back and read it. So however you create and promote your content, make sure it's relevant. Make sure it's going to, I suppose, deliver value more than sell. If you're looking for sort of how many emails should I send that are sales versus sort of value driven, I would say one sales email or sales focused email for every sort of 4 or 5 value focused emails is probably about the right combination. That's not to say you can't combine them. So a favorite example of this is that you send out something and it's talking about a new sort of policy or update or something has changed in tax, and you have a call to action, say, hey, if you would like some more information, if you have questions, if we can help, give us a call, give us an email. And that's a great way where you both deliver the value and then you have a very subtle, I suppose it's, call to action there, which seems like it's a question for, so it seems like it's offering help, but you're obviously ideally going to drive them back and you can have that conversation with them, which hopefully will lead to maybe a service that you can offer them. Now, what I've also sort of marked down here are just some ideas. And again, feel free to screenshot them. There is so much that accountants can talk about, and do remember that you are the experts, and this is why your clients work with you, because you know a lot about a sphere that they often don't. So hopefully in here there'll be some good tips for you. And also always keep an eye on your inbox. I'm sure there will be questions that you get asked by clients and prospects a lot, and that could always form the basis of an article or a guide or an email that you want to update your clients on. Andy, email deliverability. I know this was a really popular question as well.
Yeah. Had a lot of questions about this. So number one, respect your email list. It's a valuable asset for your business. And actually, while I'm talking about this one, so it is super, super valuable for your business. I do see that there's a question from Natasha saying, hey, can you just add email, people's emails to your list? Yes, you can, if they've indicated to you that you can, so it's kind of like you can't just add them automatically. Like I've gone to networking events and then people will take your business card home and they'll add you to their database. You are not allowed to do that. But if, however, you've got a client and you're like, hey, I want to stay in touch with you, can I add you so that you get our emails? And they say yes, absolutely. So the key with your email list is it's got to be permission based. Now that doesn't have to be online. They don't have to opt in online, but they do have to give you permission to email them. Now, in different jurisdictions, there are different rules around that. So sometimes you can email a business email address, e.g. office@companyname.com. But that depends on the jurisdiction. Like, are you in Australia, are you in New Zealand, the UK, where you are. So I'm not going to go into that because obviously that's different market by market. But the key thing is make sure you look after your database. You're emailing people that have asked you to email them, not just random people that you've added. Frequency, we've talked about frequency enough already, but yeah, just work out a cadence so that people know what to expect, because that's the thing. Like, I've often been on databases where I get no email from them, and then suddenly they send me like 3 in a week. And that's kind of a surefire way, unless it's super high value, to get people to unsubscribe. So work out what your cadence is going to be. You can communicate that to your clients, to your prospects, so that they know what to expect. And you're better off choosing something that you can stick to than being like really enthusiastic and going, hey, I'm going to do fortnightly, and then it doesn't happen. You're better off going, hey, I'm going to do a monthly email, or I'm going to do a quarterly email, and actually following through and doing that. And then, maybe some extra ones for like specific announcements from the ATO or IRD or whoever. Number 3, you permission-based email marketing techniques. So this is kind of going back to number 1, but don't purchase email lists. We don't allow it in the Boma's terms and conditions. And to be honest, we haven't seen clients get a great level of success with this anyway. So you're far better off having people that have given you permission to email them rather than purchasing random people that you don't know that aren't expecting an email from you. Number 4, avoid spammy language. This is actually quite a tricky one because obviously being accountants and bookkeepers, you often ask people about their bank accounts. Do they have a trust? All these sorts of things that can cause flags. And that's why I'll jump ahead. Number 8 is so crucial. So earlier this year, Yahoo and Google changed their requirements so that bulk email senders have to authenticate their emails. So that's with SPF and DKIM. And so at that time, we made it mandatory in Boma for new users to actually have to, authenticate their email. If you're a long-standing Boma member, we may not have applied that to your account yet. We're going through and retroactively applying that to accounts. But you really do want to do that because of the nature of emails that accountants and bookkeepers send. You absolutely want to authenticate your email. What I've seen recently with Outlook is now, flagging emails as unverified. Like it's putting like a little red mark, a little, red label against them that says unverified if the email is not authenticated using SPF and DKIM. So you definitely want to do that. You want to land in the inbox. You want your clients, your prospects to be able to see your emails. Number 5, maintain a good text to image ratio. This just means don't make your email all images. Like think about those kind of, I don't know, discount store approaches of just like a one big giant image. So have some text, have some content in there. Fine to have images, fine to even have large images. You just want to make sure that, most of your email is text, not giant images. So yeah. Number 6, avoid direct attachments. So we actually don't allow you to do this inside of Boma, but even when you're sending an email from Outlook or, G Suite, whatever you're sending your emails from, it's much better not to have direct attachments on the email. They can get blocked due to size. They can get blocked due to, security concerns. So the best way to do this is to do URL links. Again, if you've got like zip files or Word documents, they really can aggravate things. In fact, to the point where some clients, what they will do is they will actually, if say you've got like a form for your clients to fill in at the end of the year. It's very common to have forms that they can download or forms that they can fill in. You can create a page for that on your website, have links to those files on that page on your website, and then you put the link to that page in the email, not the direct links to the zip file or the Excel sheet or whatever. Number 7, tell your recipient who you are. So this is kind of coming back to send the email from you. Don't send it from info or office. I mean, if you want to, like we do have clients that do, it doesn't stop the email from landing in the inbox. It's really just about personalizing and making sure that people want to open and read your emails. And number 8, we've already talked about.
Oh, thanks, Andy. So these are some of the other questions that we can address, and then we've also got a couple of questions coming through. So I'll just take 2 of the ones online, and then the hyperlinks. Then I'll hand over to you, Andy.
Cool.
So one question just came through in the Q&A. If we selected 2 tags and a contact as part of those 2 tags, will the email be sent to them twice? So the answer is no. They will just be included once because they're basically part of those 2 segments, but they would only get the email once. And then a second one was if we'd missed a client's first name and it's blank, so in the contact, instead of saying Charles Clark, it's just blank and then surname is Clark, what will the merge tag push through in the email? So at the moment, it wouldn't push through anything. It would just be blank. So if you've got a lot of people who you're missing the first name of, I would definitely recommend going into into Boma or wherever you're seeing them from and trying to fill in the first names of those people. If you don't have the first names, a workaround that you can do is you could just, instead of saying sort of like dear, you could say hi. And so those people who had a first name, it would be like hi Andy, hi Charles. And if you didn't, it would just say hi. Andy, is there a default? I know that sometimes you can put there, or you can have their appear?
Yeah, no, so there isn't a default at the moment. Like we did look at adding salutation as well, where you could load like a default salutation in there. Yeah, I can't remember what the technical there was a technical hurdle that we hit with that then overcomplicated it, and so that got paused. It is still sitting there in the development pipeline, so we may still do that. I'm not a big fan of the high there anyway. Like I actually prefer the blank because it encourages you to actually get those names. Equally, when you're capturing, and we haven't talked about this elsewhere, but like when you're building a form in Boma, you should always ask for email and first name at the
Mm.
very least. Now, obviously, the more fields that you have in a form, the less likely it is for people to fill it in. Equally, the more fields you have, the more qualified the leads are. And obviously, to the personalization point, the more able you are to deliver services to those clients. So we would always recommend you to have a form with at least the email and the first name. So there's no real reason to not have a first name in there, and you absolutely should get it in there because there is going to be as effective as blank. Not really, like you want to have their first name, you want to personalize.
Hmm. Nice. Okay, so on to these questions. And so how to increase hyperlink clicks? And I think as Andy showed you, you can insert them into anywhere in an email. I like to think of these a little bit like a subject line. So, you've got an opportunity to get someone to click. How do you get that? Well, you make the call to action clear and impactful. You make the language clear. So you could say, click here to do this, or click on this email to do this. What you can also do is bold the hyperlink so it stands out a little bit more. Now, in the one that Andy showed you, the default link color was blue. You could always change that to a red, for example, if you really wanted it to pop. Or you could, even increase the size of it a little bit. So a few different ways that you could increase it. I would suggest that clear language is probably the best way to encourage people to click on a link, or at least have the option to click on a link if you want them to. Andy, do you want to talk about lead magnets?
Yeah, so lead magnets, obviously you want to have lead magnets, you want to have a way of capturing people's email address. The best way to do this is to work out like what's most attractive to your potential clients. So that could be white papers. Industry specific guides are really good. So like let's say that one of your target audiences is builders, then you could create a free report that's like builders tax deductible cheat sheet, or builders save you tax cheat sheet, or whatever it is, so that it's actually targeted to that specific industry. It also means that if you want to run ads, or if you want to target that lead magnet, who you're going after. It's not like a lead magnet that's like, oh, it's for anyone who's in business. You want to have that targeting, you want to personalize it, you want to make it specific to a particular group. Technical guides or cheat sheets. So, example is like how to use Xero, or how to use QuickBooks, those sorts of things. So anything that's going to be valuable for clients or potential clients. Another great one is to think about, when someone is starting a business, what is it that they don't know? What would they be opting in for? Because obviously it's easier to get someone when they don't have an accountant. So it could be a free report that's like, hey, 5 reasons you should get an accountant before you start your small business, or here's how to set up your Xero so that getting your accounts done at the end of the year is as cheap and easy as possible. So reports like that. Equally, one of the other things that you can do with lead magnets while I'm talking about them is making sure that you tag people in Boma when they choose those lead magnets. And so essentially, so that oh, builder, so if they chose the builder lead magnet that I was just talking about, you tag them as builder. And so then you can segment the content that you send to them. You can invite them to a specific, like build a webinar or build a live event that you're having. So make sure that you're using that personalization segmentation from those lead magnets.
And then templates, we did sort of discuss, I think Andy did show you some of the templates. I suppose just to recap on that, you can use the design templates that we have in there. You can, if you're sharing Boma content, you'll have the layout, either like the full content or the hero or the sort of small sections. And you can obviously use those to stand alone or sort of build into a newsletter. And the other way to use them, and the way that I think a lot of Boma users over time, is that they will actually create templates that they want to use, say for a newsletter template, for a sort of an update template. And this template would have not only would obviously have their branding and sort of the layout that they've chosen, but it might have, a background color that they want. It might have an email signature down the bottom from a specific partner or person. It may even have sort of a disclaimer down the bottom. So those are also templates that people use. In terms of using and reusing those templates, they're all saved in previous emails. So that's where you go, and so you could create a template and then sort of name it as Charles's client update template, and that will appear then as a template in your previous emails. Now you don't have to create it and send it. Just as long as you create a template and save it, it's going to then appear in there as well. Andy, should we
Perfect.
talk about unbound or bounced emails quickly?
Yeah, I think let's talk about bounced emails quickly before I actually, yeah, what email I'm going to go. Yeah, so I think before we do, I think because there's two more sort of live questions that I'll answer as well. So Olga's asked, actually, if you can let me share screen, uh, Charles,
Can you
I
just take
will
over it?
jump. Yeah, I'll take it over. I'm
Yeah.
going to do that now. Cool. So I'm back in my email now. I'm just going to save and close this for a second. So Olga's asked, how can I copy a campaign in Boma to use as a starting point for the next campaign and make changes? I apologize, this is already discussed earlier. No, we haven't discussed that already. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do that, Olga. So I'll show you one way. So one way is in here. I can go change template. It will warn me because I've already created a template. So it's like, oh, watch out, Andy. You're about to delete the work you've done. But I'm going to go, okay, continue anyway. So essentially, if you want to just reuse an email, then you can find an email from your list. So I might go, oh, actually, I sent this great email on the increase of the minimum wage in November. I want to send a follow up based on it. So I can click, select, and edit. It will automatically pull in the template from that email. It will load it, and I can start from that email that I've sent previously. And this is also a way that if you want to create a particular type of email template, that you can create a template for a campaign and then you can just reuse it in any future campaigns. So that's one way of doing it. I'm actually going to exit without saving that one, so that'll keep my original template. The other way, Olga, of doing it is that I can go, right, let me find a successful campaign. I might look at one of these and I might go, actually, this one here was really good. And then I can just hit duplicate. And when I duplicate a campaign from this list here, so I'm going to go draft now. So now we can see that that's been duplicated. It will actually duplicate everything. So it's duplicated my Facebook, my LinkedIn, and my X. So it's duplicated everything. So not just and actually this one, sorry, didn't have an email, so it hasn't duplicated an email because there was no email. But equally, if I wanted to duplicate this one, like let's say I'm going to do, like this one might be Christmas email clients, so I can rename that, and this one might be Christmas email. Non-clients, or maybe I call it prospects. And so essentially now I've got two emails. They're both going to start from the same basic format, but I can edit them as separate emails. And then the other question from someone anonymous saying, can your template sit on a drive and share as a hyperlink in email marketing? Actually, you can. So if you have a PDF and some, I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of this. Like I think it's much better to either have an email or a web page that people can look at. But some businesses do like to create, like, say, a long PDF. So they have a Word document that they then save as a PDF, and then they send out like a brief email that says, "Hey," and actually, the one time I have seen this work really well was for a UK client of ours, Business Vision. And what they would do is every month they would send out an email and they'd say, "Hey, this month in our newsletter we've got," and they had contributing authors. So they had like lots of different experts, like marketing experts, sales experts, contributing to this PDF. And so basically it really was like, if you think about like an old school kind of brochure or old school newsletter. So in the email, they would kind of tempt you with like, oh, in this month's issue, so and so is talking about this, and so is talking about that, and this person's, delving into, these 7 secrets to getting better engagement with your staff. And then they would link to that PDF. And there is, if you search in the help center for PDF, actually what I'll do is I will, hold on a second, let me open this. What I'll do is I'll put it in the question and answer. So there is actually a actually I'll put it in the chat. So in the chat, because I can't reply now that we said we're going to answer it live, in the chat I've put a link to how to attach a PDF to an email campaign. So you absolutely can do it that way. So yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thanks, Andy. Now, look, we've sort of come to the end of our session today, but if anyone has any more questions, please do feel free to send them through now. Equally, if you've got questions and you'd like to send them through afterwards, you can send them through to support@bomamarketing.com. Very happy to take this offline and help you out there. Now, as we said earlier, we'll be sending out a recording of this tomorrow, along with a few of the resources that we talked about today, including the best practice checklist, some of the AI prompts, and maybe a link to 1 or 2 of our other help articles, which you might find useful. I think that's it, Andy. Thanks so much for your expertise. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.